Is a Brandon Ingram trade on the way? He changes agencies, and to one I'm sure the Pelicans are not super thrilled about. I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. Make sure you do subscribe right here to the channel. And don't forget, turn on notifications as well. A lot of people don't have notifications on. Turn those on. That way you get notified every time we have a new video out. Just ring that little bell. Joining me is Donnie Freeman. Donnie, Brandon Ingram, we know he's been on the trade market since the summer. The Pelicans have been able to find a deal. And now New Orleans' favorite agency is in control. Brandon Ingram signing with Klutch Sports, according to Tom's money, of course. Klutch Sports representing Anthony Davis as well, helped negotiate the trade, sending AD out of New Orleans. Do you think this means a deal is coming? What are your thoughts here on Brandon Ingram joining Klutch?
I have no idea. I think the instant reaction is, oh, I guess he's going to be a Laker again because, Klutch and, the way that, they have been. Okay, so like right now I'm on Real GM looking at the client list. The Lakers currently have 4 Klutch players, the two LeBrons, AD, and Jared Vanderbilt. But there are years
that took me a second.
There were years where it was many more than that, like most of the roster.
Yeah.
Because Cam also was, but he left in the offseason. But anyway, yeah, I think that's the instant reaction. In terms of the Pelicans, yeah, I don't know that they love it. They have a couple guys on their roster. Brandon Boston and DeJounte Murray are both Klutch clients, so maybe they're slowly starting to, peel back some of that and not be. I think Rich is probably pretty neutral, I guess,
sure.
To be fair. He's got clients everywhere nowadays, yeah. But yeah, I don't know that they love it, to answer your question.
So here's the deal. This is from Brian Windhorst of ESPN. The Pelicans and Brandon Ingram are at a stalemate on extension talks, and they're struggling to find a deal with a franchise he's comfortable signing a new contract with. Sources told ESPN. Another complicating factor is with an Ingram trade is the Pelicans will not take any surplus salary back. We'll look at the salary in just a moment. But so essentially, Brandon Ingram wants an extension, and as Evan Sidery reported, he wants an eventual max level contract, or at least max-ish contract. And teams are not interested in giving him that deal. There's a reason why New Orleans isn't just re-signing him. They don't want to be the team to give him a big contract. Other teams don't want to give him that either. And that's the reason why he's still a New Orleans Pelican, because he's a very good player. He's a very talented player, and he's somebody that could help a lot of teams, but teams don't want to spend a max contract on him next year. And right now, if we take a peek at the contract, he is expiring, $36 million deal. So if he were willing to take a $20 million contract, well, first of all, the New Orleans Pelicans are probably just re-signing him themselves, but he would also have a pretty significant trade market if you're willing to take less money. But if he is demanding a max contract and teams don't want to give him that, anybody trading for him basically has to approach it as though you're getting him for half a season, and then maybe he leaves in free agency, or maybe the market doesn't work out for him or something like that. But now that he's with Klutch, Donnie, Klutch has a history of getting pretty maybe above market deals for their clients. You may be looking at a difficult negotiation if you're a team with Brandon Ingram over the summer. I don't know that this helps his market value, although I'd imagine Klutch is probably not going to just facilitate the next contract next summer. They're probably going to try to get Brandon Ingram out of New Orleans before then.
Yeah. I approached it more from the element of Lakers disdain, things like that. And they've got, LeBron's main guy over there. But yeah, you're right. One thing that Rich Paul is known for is getting his guys paid for the most part. There have been some guys like Nerlens who bet on themselves and it didn't work out pretty well. And so, yeah, I do think that's part of the decision making here for Brandon is he wants somebody that's going to put him in the best position to make as much money as possible because, like you said, he is trying to get a big contract. Mm-hmm. I think he's a weird piece because I don't really he's talented, sure, but it's very similar to the conversation around, Zach LaVine, where it's like, this guy's going to be really good. He can impact winning on certain teams, things like that. But if he's going to try to get more money than the 36 he's already making this year, that's a tough sell, man, for a lot of teams to really go out there and try to put him on their roster with this production making 40 million plus. It's a tough sell. So I don't really know that this changes his market in any serious way. And it doesn't really matter how well he performs here. It's just unless he is a superstar level talent. And I think that as we move forward, this is the case for most guys in the league. Unless you're a superstar talent, I don't know that you should be making 45 plus or 40 million plus going forward with the new CBA. So he's going to be in a weird spot regardless of his representation.
That's just it. Donnie, the new CBA is so punitive for teams that overpay players. You simply can't do that. And the only way you're going to give out a max now is if you feel like a guy can be the best player on a championship level team, or at least a strong contending team, or the second best player on such a team. Those guys can get a max, and you can still build out a full roster. Brandon Ingram projects to be probably like your third best guy, like you said, a Zach LaVine situation, which means that you can't give him that money. But that's what he wants. And I understand why, because under the old system, guys were getting that no problem. You guys like Brandon Ingram were getting those kind of deals. Now, though, it's much more difficult to give him that, especially on a long-term salary. And as I said, it's if you have a bad contract on your books, it is more damaging now under the current CBA with the tier system and the extra punitive measures that are in there. So Brandon Ingram, it's not just his production, because when he's on the court, he's great. Look, 23 points, 5.4 assists, 5.8 boards, 36% from three. We can quibble over his game. Is he too ball dominant? Is he too shot happy? And all that kind of stuff, right? We can quibble over all of that, and we can certainly break down how he fits with certain teams and everything. But the bottom line, go to the games played column. It is just not robust enough. And if he picks up a couple of injuries over the next couple of years, that's how that contract very easily flips into a bad contract beyond just his production on the floor. If he's not on the court, period, if he's not available, then you get saddled with potentially a bad contract. So teams are very wary of giving Brandon Ingram this deal. But here's the other piece to this, Donnie. This is also stopping Brandon Ingram from getting a trade done. Brandon Ingram shut down trade talks between the Pelicans and the Jazz because he doesn't want to play for Utah. So that's the other piece. It's not just the Pelicans don't want to be the team to give Brandon Ingram his next contract. Most of the other teams don't want to be the team to give Brandon Ingram his next contract. It's also, does BI want to re-sign with the team that he's going to? In this case, with Utah, he said no. So that's it. It's done, because no team is going to give up significant assets for a guy that is going to bail the next summer. So, Donnie, this is a big factor too. Where does Brandon Ingram want to be? Clearly, for the time being, the answer is not Utah.
Yeah, I don't know. This is why I said I don't really know kind of what he expects here. I mean, something has to give.
Sure.
You're not going to be able to force a destination and also get max dollars or max adjacent dollars, something like that. I don't think he's going to be able to do that because, quite simply put, I don't know that he's the type of talent that teams would still take a flyer on, regardless of if he's going to, say, for example, right now, if he doesn't give them a promise to re-sign, I don't think he's the type of talent that teams are going to give up assets for. There are other guys that they may consider that for, but I don't think that's Brandon. That's not to disparage him. I think he's great, but I just think that there has to be some, I don't know, a level of reflection happening here where it's I don't know that he is going to get everything he's looking for this offseason. I question whether or not he might just be part of they've got a couple scenarios that could happen here for the Pelicans. I don't know that they'll trade him for any assets, which is what they would love to have happen because they don't want to give him the money he's asking for. I don't think that's going to happen, but I do think it's possible they either ride it out and just cut ties at the end of the season. You'd hate to lose a $36 million, asset for nothing. You'd hate to lose that, but if worse comes to worse, it happens. And then also maybe there's a team out there that's willing to just take him as a salary filler and give the Pelicans back a couple of functional players that they could use, because this roster, well, I don't know what the plan is this year because they've struggled a lot so far. But they could, in theory, get a couple of, players that they could hold on to for a while and build around with their core going forward. So I think those are the only options that they truly have in terms of the Pelicans. With BI, I mean, he's going to have to come off the money or come off the destination. I don't think you can get both.
Well, there's a recent report that the Pelicans are not ready to tank right now. They're not ready to just call it quits on the season. They want to get the guys back and healthy, and they are starting to get some guys returning. But you see right now, they're sitting, God, they're so far down, they're not even on the screen right now. They are 4-16 on the season. They've lost their last 7 straight.
Just tank, man. Just call it. Just tank.
Yeah, that's
just
really what they do. I mean, we've talked about Zion Williamson trades. Like this may be. It's a terrible season, and by no means am I trying to suggest this is a good thing for the Pelicans. This is not what anybody wanted to see. But look, they got CJ McCollum back. They got DeJounte Murray back. Trey Murphy playing, and they still got crushed by the Memphis Grizzlies. So, and the Grizzlies are a good team, but still, this is not what anybody in New Orleans wanted to see. But maybe this is a blessing in disguise. Maybe it's a blessing in disguise because you're going to get a great pick in a great draft class. And this may be actually a sort of gap year that propels you forward. So if I'm the Pelicans, I'm not waiting too much longer to make the decision that, hey, we are going to move in this direction. These are the cards we were dealt. We're going to play this hand, and we're gonna go this way, and we're gonna get a great draft pick. But that might mean moving off of Brandon Ingram for maybe less than what you would ideally want. And again, I don't think teams are interested in paying him. So basically, if you're the Pelicans, you're looking for two things. You're either looking for a team that is willing to give you something for Brandon Ingram to be a rental. That's what you're looking at. And this is your least favorable outcome, that you find a team that will give you something for Brandon Ingram to be a rental. And ideally, that's expiring salaries, which, again, the report noted that's what the Pelicans want. They don't want to take back long-term money. So you try to find a team that's got some expirings, or at least mostly expirings to send out. Maybe you do have to take back one salary or something like that. And then you can get some minor draft capital, right? That's what you're looking for. So you're looking for that. Or the best case scenario is you do find a team that says, you know what, not only New Orleans do we want to give you stuff for Brandon Ingram, but we also want to be the team to pay Brandon Ingram on his next deal, and that's why we're willing to give you stuff right now. That is a much taller ask. And in the meantime, you're going to have BI nixing certain teams saying, nope, I don't want to go to that team. I don't want to sign there. I don't want to sign there. Threading the needle in this situation is not going to be easy. And I think what you said a moment ago, Donnie, something has to give, is very accurate. Something has to give, and probably multiple somethings, in order for a deal to get done.
Yeah. What's a number you think BI you would, that if you were a GM, that you would sign BI to long term per year?
25.
25. I was thinking closer to 30, especially looking at Murray there and McCollum. I don't know that 30. You can sell him on less than 30-ish, but
anywhere in that range, sure.
Yeah. And that's a hard thing to say. You know, he's not like he's over the hill. He's in his prime or entering his prime right now. It's he's going to be looking to make more money than that. It's just kind of a weird, tough sell given this circumstance around the NBA, the locations, all that stuff. I think there may, you kind of brought it up briefly there, but I also wouldn't be terribly crazy surprised if there was a team that was looking for one more high-end piece that could potentially be in the running for a title this year and says, okay, we'll handle the offseason stuff when we hit the offseason. We're going to grab him. We think he is the piece we're missing, and we're going to plug him into our team and go from there and try to make a title push this year. And hopefully they win it, right? I think that I don't know who that team is, but I don't, we've seen them do things like that before in the past. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't be terribly surprised if that happens. But really, I think in terms of these guys, it sucks to say, because I know that they had better aspirations than this when they traded for Murray and all that stuff. And they just haven't been able to get right. You've got the Zion issue once again, health all over the roster here. Guys are coming back, and it'd be a tough sell to say, Murray, McCollum, we want to just kind of tank going forward. We're not interested in winning games, but I truly think that they probably should treat this, like you said, as a gap year. Maybe move off of Zion, and if they need to next year, depending on what happens with him and the draft this offseason, maybe that's an option that opens to you if you get a high-end pick. Like, say, for example, you get Cooper Flagg. Maybe you mess around and say, all right, well, Zion, it was nice knowing you. You can't get healthy. You don't want to be here. You want to be in New York. Fine. Let's just make something happen. I think this team has a lot of opportunities here and different things that can happen. But for BI, I don't think the same is true. I don't think there's a lot of options for him. I think for him specifically, he's either going to have to come off the money, come off the destination, or hope that he gets traded somewhere, like just hypothetically like the Warriors, and they're trying to make a push and they can match that salary.
Yeah, that would be, in order for him to get big money, the ideal situation would be a team that's going to play deep in the playoffs and everybody's going to see him play, and he's going to play well in the postseason, and that's going to get teams, either the incumbent team or an outside team, to say, you know what, this guy's really, really valuable. Let's go after him. He's putting up great numbers, but I don't know the teams see him as that top one or two guy on a roster. So it'll be interesting to see how the market develops for him. I do think that before the trade deadline, he's somewhere else. I think that by the time that buzzer sounds, he winds up getting moved somewhere, some team. There's enough teams that see him as a talented player, and he is a talented player. There's enough teams that could use him that I think somebody will make the move. But again, something's going to have to budge, and I think it may be multiple somethings. I think it's going to be Brandon Ingram is going to have to communicate. And by the way, he can't agree to a deal right now, but he would have to communicate with the team he's going to that, hey, I'll take this much money this summer in order to stick around. And I think the Pelicans, their asking price is going to have to drop, or Brandon Ingram's going to have to come off the location maybe as well. Maybe he's going to have to consider some teams that otherwise he'd be shutting down, like perhaps the Utah Jazz. But this Brooklyn,
is can they do a Ben Simmons Brooklyn swap? Can they do that?
Sure. I mean, they could.
Each other?
That's where I think you could do a 3-team trade. Because
Okay.
I don't think do the Nets want BI? I mean,
maybe,
but I would think that's where you get into a 3-team trade, where you use Ben Simmons' expiring contract so that the Pels aren't taking back long-term salary. You get, oh my God, Ben Simmons and Zion Williamson for half a season on the same team together. The two, like, the next it guy phenoms that just have not panned out to this point. That would be funny. But you move off of those guys, and you're sending Brandon Ingram to a third team. That's where you could, that could make some sense. But man, the more I look at it, and this is from an outside perspective, so Pelicans fans can let us know what you think in the comment section. I think there's real opportunity here in New Orleans if you can get the right deal for Zion. This is, again, perhaps the silver lining. This is your chance to reset everything. Move Zion if you can get the right deal for him. Move Brandon Ingram. Try like hell to move off of CJ McCollum's money for next year. And then you've got a team built around DeJounte Murray, Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, 2 really good wings. You've got Yves Missy, Jordan Hawkins. Look, is that a contending team? No, but let's see who you add in the draft and what kind of assets you get for Zion and what you get for BI. And if you can get somebody to take on CJ McCollum's money, and this whole team could be turned around very, very quickly. I think that's a very interesting thing, depending on how robust the market is for Zion Williamson. I really think, Donnie, there may be an opportunity here for, franchise-altering moves for New Orleans that completely redirects their future. And if you can find the right deal for Zion, I think that's actually a really appealing path.
Yeah, we talked a lot about whether or not they should move off of Zion, and it's just such a conflicting thing. It's like they should, they shouldn't. There's arguments as to either way. But I think that if they do what you just suggested and kind of just soft reset here, they could get really lucky and be back in playoff picture in a year. They really could. Like, they've got a core here already of those guys you mentioned, and it's not the best, but if you get assets around, you get a good draft piece, all of a sudden within a couple of years, you're right back where you are, at least right now, or where you should be right now anyway, given the record. But I think you could maybe be pushing for the playoffs within a couple of years. So
for sure,
that's not too bad.
No, not bad. Not bad at all. All right, everybody, let us know what you think about this. What is going to happen with this standoff here? Brandon Ingram, the Pelicans, the mystery third teams that are out there that would be interested in him. How is all of this going to play out? Is Brandon Ingram going to get moved before the trade deadline? And now that he's with Klutch Sports, is that going to inhibit things and prevent things from happening? Or is this actually going to grease the wheels and help a deal get done? Let us know in the comment section. Don't forget to go check out our most recent video on Kawhi Leonard and his pending return, what it could mean for the Clippers. Go check it out right now.